So what should the president's messaging be, and when are we going to see details of the health care plan from this White House?
Well, good morning, Kevin. It's great to be with you. I think that this is a layup as far as I spent 6 years at the RNC and have been in political operations for decades now. I mean, when you have a robust economy the way the president does, that's what you campaign on. The number one issue that most voters vote on, if you look back last several elections, has been the economy. This president has a robust economy. His policies are working, and they should focus on it and double down on it, and that's it.
So in terms of Obamacare, and as you know, this was a very robust debate back in the early part of the administration. Is this something that Republicans, that ought to be a key campaign issue for this administration as they head into this new cycle?
Not yet, no. I mean, here's why. If you're going to make health care a key issue, it's 1/5 to 1/6 of the economy. You have to have a plan to deal with it. Healthcare is a very personal issue, right? So whether you're young and you feel vibrant and don't necessarily need healthcare the way that a lot of other people do, you probably have a parent or a loved one that is dependent on healthcare for in some way, shape, or form. So healthcare is a very personal thing, and if you're going to touch it, you better be ready to talk about what your plan is to fix it and to make sure that it stays intact in a way that's going to be A, affordable, and B, accessible. And I'm not sure that we're there yet. The Republicans that tried to do this early on in the Trump administration, we came up short. If you're going to take it on again, you better be ready to come in with a full and exhaustive and comprehensive plan. I don't see that right now. Now, you contrast that, Kevin, with what I just talked about with the economy. You've got a booming economy in almost all the appropriate and necessary sectors. So focus on that. If you want to wait until a second term and revive the health care issue, then go for it. But right now, it would seem foolish to me to be focusing on anything but the economy and the other accomplishments that the president's been able to achieve in his first term.
Oh, wait, Sean, but even today we got fourth quarter GDP revised down. We are seeing fears of a recession creeping in. This GTV chart on the Bloomberg showing you that parts of the yield curve have now been inverted. And once you see that, during past inversions, we have seen that about a year later, we do see recession. What that would mean is that smack in the middle of 2020, we could see a recession. How would that change the 2020 political landscape for President Trump?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, number one, I will say that if you look at a lot of the prognosticators a year ago in terms of what the president's policies were going to do, they were wrong then. And I think, we'll have to see what happens. There's a lot of things that are still out. Where do we go with trade? Where do we go with the current tariffs that are in place? How do we do vis-a-vis China? So there's a lot of open issues with respect to where the economy goes. But I think so far we've been doing pretty well. The other thing that's important to remember is that when it comes to voting, the economy is a gut issue less than a statistical issue. So what I mean by that is that if you look, you can tell people all you want the economy's doing well, but if they don't feel it, it doesn't matter. You go back to 1992, the economy was rebounding, and yet people didn't feel it, and George Bush wasn't reelected. In this particular case right now, most people feel the economy's doing well. They look at their pocketbook, they look at their choices, they look at their savings, they look at hourly earnings, things that personally affect them, and they think things are going well. So in order for things to change, it wouldn't just have to be one or two numbers. It would have to be that gut feeling that they're starting to feel as though the job market is tightening, the real estate market is tightening, gas prices are going up. Things that affect them on a very personal basis are changing. And until that happens, the statistics are sort of a lagging indicator, if you will.
You took me to my next point, gas prices. Voters could be looking at that. We are seeing oil prices rising. So would you think that it is right that President Trump is trying to micromanage even that sector of the economy, tweeting again today and hitting back at OPEC, asking for them to really increase the flow of oil? World markets are fragile. Prices of oil are getting too high. Was that right?
Absolutely. Look, here's the thing that Trump gets in terms of the messaging, right? And what he's doing when he does things like that, and you've seen him tweet at other companies and industries, is that he wants people to know that quintessential old political question. Do you feel my pain? Do you understand people like me? And so when people read a tweet like that, they say, oh, gas prices are going up, but the president gets it. He's trying to affect change. And that's why he tweets, I think, in a lot of cases, the way he does, is to communicate directly to the American people. I see what you're going through. I see how this issue or this company's decisions are affecting your personal way of life. And so he's trying to telegraph to people, hey, I see gas prices are going up, so I've told OPEC to deal with this. And he's making sure that people know that he understands what's happening in the economy and he's trying to affect change in a positive way.
So a key battleground state where trade policy and energy policy is going to really play is Michigan, where the president is headed later tonight. He's going to have a campaign-style rally later this evening. He was able, of course, to carry that state during the 2016 presidential election. I want to pull up the polling that has come out of Michigan in particular, because he's really polling neck and neck against the former Vice President Joe Biden. He's got a slight edge there, slight edge against Bernie Sanders, but well within the statistical margin of error. And he's ahead 9 points in front of former Congressman Beto O'Rourke. From your vantage point, as you start to gauge and factor in these 2020 presidential candidates, who gives you the most pause in terms of who would present the biggest challenge?
Let me back you up 1 second, Kevin, because I think you put your finger on something that's very important. There's going to be 5 to 6 battleground states, one of which is clearly going to be Michigan, as you have identified. We won Michigan last time by 60,000 votes. That's a razor's edge if I've ever seen one. And so I think that whether it's Beto O'Rourke or Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, you're going to see Michigan tighten very close. That's just how it's going to be. I think an issue like USMCA, NAFTA 2.0 is going to play huge in Michigan. The standards that have changed for automakers and auto workers in particular is something that the president's going to be able to go into places like Michigan and Wisconsin and Ohio and talk about how he's fighting for them and their jobs and their wages. That's going to be critical because those states are going to come down to 1, 2, 3 percentage points every time. So I don't really care about, I mean, I think that the horse race with Biden is a name ID thing at this point. And I think that that's where it's going to end up with everybody. It's going to be a neck-and-neck race in Michigan and probably in places like Wisconsin as well. It's early now, but I think every one of those people is going to come down the stretch regardless and make those states competitive. The president's done the right thing in renegotiating USMCA, though, and giving voters, auto workers in particular, and dairy farmers in Wisconsin a reason to be with him and a reason to know that he has tried to help their industry, their job, and their wages.
Right. Sean, on the issue of tariffs, particularly with the auto industry, what do you say to the business community, not just C-level executives, but also small, medium-sized companies who are a bit wary of some of these tariffs? Are they going to have to wait and see if they're going to be removed?
I think so. I mean, look, there's two sides to this coin, Kevin. I'm not a big fan of tariffs. And I think for a lot of people who look at trade as an issue, it's a tool to bring people to the negotiating table. And I think and I hope that's what the president's done. But in the long term, they don't necessarily benefit our economy, our workers, and our consumers. So the question is, how long does the president hold that out there as a negotiation tactic? And I think when you look at a lot of these industries, for frankly, this last several administrations, they've been told, the workers in the industry, hey, this is the best deal we can cut. This president's come in and said, you know, no more business as usual. We're going to slap tariffs on these individuals, bring them to the table. The key question that you ask, though, is for how long? And I don't think anybody knows at this point, but clearly with China in particular, they continue to engage with them to try to solve this. You saw the last time, though, when the president had the opportunity to raise those tariffs up to 25% and enact additional ones, he held back. I think rightly so, because he understood that we've got them at the table. And we've got to make sure that we don't do too much damage in the short term. We want to engage with them, get a resolution that benefits our workers and our economy, but doesn't do damage.